Hey y'all, and welcome to Clove Room. This is the fifth day of Clovemas. Hope y'all have been enjoying. I know I have had a lot of fun making content a little more regularly, and today we are doing my best of the best of beauty in 2023. Now, this isn't, I guess, I don't even know what counts as a typical best of the best beauty, to be honest, so it might be typical. But I am not somebody who actually, even when I am buying makeup, I am in a no-buy right now. Even when I am buying makeup, I don't buy, I don't want to say based on new releases, because I feel like we all in some way buy on based on new releases. I tend to purchase products that have been out for a bit, or aren't new releases just as much, if not more, than new releases. So a lot of these I've had in my collection for a bit, or are products that are not remotely new to the market. This video is really just me saying what I thought the MVPs of my collection were this year. I don't have a product for every category. I have multiple for some. So I'm not holding myself to I have to name one thing for each category, because there are some categories I just feel like I haven't really had the best of the best this year, or I just haven't found a perfect one that I'm super psyched to share. And then there are other categories where I have a couple of things that I want to shout out, and I don't feel like making myself choose one. And I will be doing some application footage throughout this video. I did just watch Tom's video that I think we're on the same wavelength, because I made this list and I was like, I kind of want to do a best of the best video, but I don't want it to be based on a bunch of new products I tried. I just want to talk about what I think is kind of permanent top shelf in my collection. And then Tom published basically that video, and we actually have a lot of overlap, which I thought was funny, because Tom, I feel tends to have more luxury indie products than I do, I guess. I don't know though, because we have a lot of shared favorites, which I thought was funny. If you do end up enjoying this video, I would really appreciate it if you give it a big like. It helps me a lot in the wild, wild west of the YouTube algorithm. Comment below your favorites of the year if you would like to shout out a few products that you've been really loving. And subscribe if you want to see future videos. We are in the midst of Clovemas, of the Clovisance. It's all happening. Everything's happening. So why not join? Why not join? It's a great time to join the bandwagon. And now we're going to go ahead and get into what my best of the best in beauty was this year. So I did do this in the order I usually apply makeup. So I usually do eyeshadow first, especially if I'm doing a look like this that's a little bit more intricate or involved. Honestly, this eyeshadow look, I went back to a bunch and intensified things. So you're only really going to see me building the base look for it. I went in with a lot and kept going in, because I think that's kind of what you have to do if you're doing a more intense look. I intensified the blue a lot on my upper lid, at least 3 or 4 layers of that, before and after adding sparkly shades and things like that. So this video is going to be in order of my application, my preferred application for my beauty routine. Right off the bat, we've got 2 categories I do not have favorites in. My brows have been through a lot this year. I bleached them a couple of times. I've gone through a lot of different preferences. I'm still kind of in the midst of figuring out my preferences. And I've yet to try a product that I feel is a true holy grail staple. So I don't have anything for brows. Same for eye primer. I go in and out of using eye primer. The one I'm using right now is the Milk one. It's fine. I just haven't really fallen head over heels for any sort of eye primer, so I didn't feel like naming one. Eyeshadow, however, I have a good amount of eyeshadows, and I used most of them in this look today. One, which actually I guess counts as an eyeliner, but I use it almost as a cream pigment, and this one's a little bit of a game time switch up. It came in right at the end and really wormed its way into my Black Cold Heart, which makes sense because the brand owner of this also has a Black Cold Heart. The Victoria Beckham Kajal liner in black. You may have previously heard me talk a little shit about this, about Vicky B's eyeliners. They are very highly rated, and when I got it, I was like, this is fine. It's almost a little too creamy, almost a little too dreamy. I don't think it has the best longevity. It does fade from my waterline. It can just look worn by the end of the day or night, which I don't necessarily hate. I think sometimes, you know, if you've had a good night out, it's kind of fun to look a little smudgy in the morning or at night, at the end of the night. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's like bulletproof, which I actually don't super care about. I don't need my makeup to be bulletproof, but I guess I just had such high expectations, and the price is so astronomical on all Victoria Beckham items that I was just a little bit disappointed that it wasn't a little bit more solid and infallible. However, I recently was going to an event and I wanted to use it as, and I was like, maybe I'll try using it as like a almost like cream eyeshadow base for a smoky look. Because I have the black shade, which is very, very black. These are very, very highly pigmented. And so it's also the type of thing where I felt like I would use it and I'd be like, oh my God, this is like, I've already gotten carried away. I look like like a raccoon has like punched my eyes or something. However, when I used it, I only used a very small amount, and then as I did in the demo, I really like smudge it out, and it created the perfect smoky base. And that is something I struggled with how to do, like a refined, not all the way out to my temples and my hairline smoky eye sometimes. The control and daintiness it can sometimes take to do these sort of smudgy eyeliner looks and to not have them get way out of hand and to be the correct proportion for what I'm going for. That's been a real struggle for me with eyeshadow. And as soon as I figured out how to use the Victoria Beckham eyeliners, I was like, oh, I have some apologies to make to the community. I'm not apologizing to Mama Spice though. Mama Spice, Posh Spice. She's fine. She doesn't need my apology. She doesn't want it. She doesn't know who I am. She has no interest in knowing who I am. Every video I mute this computer that's in front of me because I always have my videos outlined. And every video, somehow, the volume goes unmuted. And it's probably my fault, but I'm going to refuse to take accountability right now. Even though I wasn't using this throughout the entire year, I really now love having this as a tool in my arsenal, and it's definitely top shelf, best of the best, etc., etc. I now want more shades, which is funny because I think I even recently sent a video like I am done with Victoria Beckham. Yep. Like very Wendy Williams-esque, was like, no, like I'm done. I just have not been impressed. I tried the highlighter that Tom actually gave me. I passed that on to Colin, not because I didn't like it. I thought it was a nice highlighter. I definitely think it's overpriced for what it is personally. But I knew Colin was doing some Victoria Beckham content and doing like full face, and I feel like they were going to use it more than I will or would appreciate it more than I would, which I think they are so far, which is great. So after that, and then with the disappointment I initially had with the eyeliner, I was very much just ready to be like, I'm not buying from Victoria Beckham again, and that's fine. However, now I want a few more of those eyeliners, and oh gosh, the way Tom talks about the priming moisturizer is very alluring. I still think I will want to try the Ritual Diffuse Thorn Oil before I try the priming moisturizer from Victoria Beckham. But I don't know, I have been really, as I learned today, I've been really needing, like, even if I do a really intense morning skincare routine, right before my makeup application, I still need even more hydration that can't come from just a highlighting product. Anyway, we're getting off track right now. But yes, the Victoria Beckham eyeliner it's just, once you figure out how to use it, and again, I sort of treat it more as like a multi-purpose cream, highly concentrated cream pigment. And I do, you know, it's in my waterline right now. I think it looks fine. Again, I don't expect it to be bulletproof. I also have very watery sensitive eyes. So I will say it doesn't super sensitize them, which is impressive. A lot of eyeliners will. It is, I think Victoria Beckham claims the clean label. That's not something I necessarily believe in or enrich myself in research, which I don't think clean beauty people typically do either, do they? Also, no shade. I do enjoy that it doesn't like sensitize my eyes, but I just, I don't know if any eyeliner is going, it's because it's a trade-off, right? Of I think the eyeliner would need to be less creamy and more stiff and solid to last in my waterlines, but if it was that formula, it would probably irritate the crap out of my very sensitive eyes. So I don't know. I've never like loved an eyeliner, and I'm starting to realize I'm starting to fall in love with this eyeliner. Starting to get it. I wanted to be one of the cool girls who was like, actually, it's not that good. But now I'm kind of like, kind of nice. Next, I'm very happy I did this. I finally discovered viseart shadows this year. And once again, I feel like when I got them, I wasn't instantly as unimpressed as I initially was with the Victoria Beckham eyeliner. But I was just kind of like, oh, they're matte eyeshadows. Like, they're really nice matte eyeshadows. Like, they are a very nice formula. I don't know if we needed to, like, have a song and dance about them. But then I started to use my other eyeshadows. Or I just kept reaching for the viseart ones that I bought. And it was one of those things where they worked so well, they were almost, like, boring and unimpressive. But then when you take a step back, you start to use other things in your collection, or you just start to really think about it. I was like, wow, these do exactly what I want them to do. They're really nice and blurring. They can be intense if you want them to be. They can set other things if you want them to. They just really feel like an artistry tool, and it feels like they want to work with you. They're not something you're working against. There's not much of a learning curve. They're really intuitive. The tones are lovely. The palettes are magnetic. It's just a system that makes a lot of sense. And they are very expensive. They do sales all the time. So I wouldn't necessarily think you would ever need to pay full price for a viseart palette because they do constantly run sales on their website. But even at full price, I would say the quality of these is so worth it. And I even like their metallic shades. I mean, I think their matte formula is really, bread and butter. Their metallic shades, though, I didn't use one today, but they almost, they're like this really impressive sparkly but like metallic-y satin formula. And again, it was one of those things where I was like, oh, this is just like a metallic. But then when I used it, I would take a step back and be like, my eyes just look so special. Like, they look just really well done and nuanced. And I have worn some of the shades I have in the Koyish palette, and some of those are more sparkly duochrome than the ones you'll find in other viseart palettes. But I get asked constantly what I'm wearing on my eyes when, like specifically, like, what are you wearing? I want to go buy it. Like, at least it's happened 2 or 3 times at work. A sophistication and ease with viseart. And I just like having, especially the neutral mattes palette. I have the petite one. I feel like having that palette's going to make me not buy a lot of things because it's the perfect neutral eyeshadow palette. And it's one of those things where, it wasn't the hero in this look today. The hero in this look was probably more like my Kaleidos escape pod that I'm going to talk about in just a second. However, this look wouldn't have probably happened as well as it did without those workhorse shades and my viseart neutral mattes. And so many looks I have done, even if I'm really wanting to focus or spotlight a different palette or single or whatnot, I always end up at least setting my liner or doing a really soft liner or blending something out with the viseart neutral matte eyeshadow palette and my other viseart shades. But the neutral mattes is really just quickly become something I reach for nearly every day. It's just perfect. And so I'm not usually the type of person who's like, you should buy this because it'll save you time or money. Like, usually that's a lie that we tell ourselves to buy more things. But viseart neutral mattes is one of those rare things in my collection where I'm like, I feel like that was actually a good investment because I'm going to be able to not buy as many things now, and it's just so versatile and useful, and it's great. As I mentioned, Kaleidos Escape Pod is a palette I got this year. This came out years ago. Did I get it this year or last year? It was a gift from a friend, and I either got it early this year or late last year. I think it was early this year, though. And I just adore it. Kaleidos isn't always my favorite brand. They've not released inclusive shade ranges as of late, so I don't know if I'm itching to really buy from them. I will also say what I love about Escape Pod is that it's so glimmery and colorful. It also has some neutral shades in it, and I think the shade Starlight Sonova? What's it called? Starlight Sonata is like this neutral shade with a bunch of colorful flecks in it. One of my favorite eyeshadows of all time. There's a great lavender in this palette that's a little bit more pigmented than the viseart one. So it's just a nice thing to have because lavender to me is a neutral, just like a cool brown or a warm brown. Like to me, it's like, if I'm doing a neutral look, it's like warm brown, cool brown, or lavender, personally. Or lavender mauve. I guess there's more categories, but you know what I mean. Lavender is a very important eyeshadow in my collection, and I love the lavender matte in that palette. I used the blue today, and it's just, it's not the same formula at all as the Viseart. I feel like it's more pigmented, and it doesn't want to sheer out as much, but it's still really workable. It's willing to work with you. I did have to layer to get this type of intensity, but it's really intense on my eyes, and it's standing against the Victoria Beckham black eyeliner and a lot of shiny shades, and it really holds. Those colorful shades in that palette are really impressive in that they really do translate on the eyes as they do in the pans, and that's pretty difficult to do. And the formula of the glittery toppery shades in Escape Pod are my ideal formula. I adore them. I love all of them. They make me feel so pretty. Another eyeshadow palette that I get a lot of questions about when I wear, it's just gorgeous. I use this palette a lot. I haven't used it as much this winter. Like the summer, spring, I used it a lot. It's just a palette that I really, really adore, and if I lost it, I would automatically rebuy it, I think, because it's that useful and special in my collection. Because it really just impressively runs this gamut between neutral, elegant, and also colorful and vibrant and fun. It's a great color story, and the formulas are really impressive. Last eyeshadow thing is the phytosurgence Lunar Lightwave Single. So this is sort of not that dissimilar from Starlight Sonata in the Kaleidos Escape Pod. It's a little bit even more brighter, and it has less colorful reflex. It's more like rosy cotton candy, like a little bit more muted in the reflect. But it is just a gorgeous, really easy shade. I will say Phytosurgence's eyeshadow formula can be a little difficult for me because I feel like sometimes it almost hard pans even though it's a cream, and sometimes I pick up more, it can get kind of scaly. And I don't know if it's because mine set out in the mail or something, but it's not always the most intuitive formula to use, but I love the shade and the effect, and the ease of being able to just reach into a pot, dab this all over my eye, and get out of the house, like maybe do a matte or like an eyeliner moment, but it's just a really easy way to femme up my look and to have like a really lovely little sparkly pop on my lid that doesn't take a lot of effort, that doesn't take opening a palette. Great for travel if you want that sort of thing while you travel. It's just a really phenomenal product, and I would like to explore more Phytosurgence shades. I have decluttered some in the past though, the ones that were more satin, no glitter in them. Those I found pretty hard to work with personally. I know some people really like them, not my favorite. I would like to try more shades from this specific collection that Lunar Lightwave's a part of, because it's just a really pretty shade and it feels really special. Next, we are gonna move on to complexion. So this is not a makeup item, but it's something I always use in my morning skincare routine, and it makes my makeup so much better and work a lot more flawlessly. And it can make complexion products that may not necessarily work for me. And that's the Phytosurgence Verdant Forcefield. This product is so great, and I've sang its praises before in the tag video, the tag I created with Colin. If you haven't watched that, the Gender Euphoria beauty tag that Colin and I created, you should go watch both Colin and I's videos on that because I'm really proud of our videos. But in that tag, there's a question that we wrote about what advice you would give to a trans or gender non-conforming person who was entering the makeup scene. And the only specific product I recommended in that is the Phytosurgence Verdant Forcefield, because it feels like a really great skincare routine in a bottle. And it's not crazy expensive. It's not drugstore, but I'm not saying they should raise the prices, but it feels like a steal when I buy it compared, like I can buy much less impressive moisturizers at Sephora for a lot more. And you get 2.7 ounces of product. Most moisturizers, you're getting an ounce less, and they're also twice the price for this quality. It's a phenomenal deal, in my opinion, a phenomenal value. Still, usually, my skin's been really dry because it's winter, and I also have been on HRT for the last few months, and that has completely robbed my face of any and all of my boy oils. Like, I have, like, oils don't break through my makeup at all at the end of the day. It used to be like at the end of the day I would definitely have a very oily nose, very oily forehead. Now everything just looks like my skin just drinks up every ounce of moisture by the end of the day. So having this in my arsenal to be my pre-makeup skincare, I think some people just use it straight up as a primer. I prefer to incorporate it in like a real AM skincare routine. And then when I sit down and do my makeup, I feel like I still need more just because my skin's dry, and I automatically, it just drinks things up so quick that I feel like I need to go ahead and get more moisture right before I put on complexion products. Otherwise it can get really dry and crepey. But this is such a hero product. It's also so multitasking because it can be a nighttime moisturizer for me. It's that hydrating, especially when, this isn't what this video is about, but the Phytosurgence Regenerative Face Oil, I'm just on my first bottle, but that is quickly becoming another hero product in my routine. That is saving my winter skin right now, for sure. And I don't know, it's a really impressive product. And a lot of people talk about how great it is, but I will continue to sing its praises until I find something as impressive. Next is a product I actually don't have. Some of these products I have used all the way up, and I haven't been able to buy a replacement yet, either because I'm using other things or I've been on a no-buy the last 4 months. But the Glossier Future Dew is that girl. It is, again, like I said earlier, I think, because right now I'm using up the Rare Beauty Moisturizing Glowy Primer, and I like it. I used it today. I think it helped with when I had to redo my base makeup because my skin was just too dry. Having that step really helps. And I think the Rare Beauty one, it's like more of a gel. It's nice. Not as good as Glossier Future Dew though. It's just, the Future Dew is a little bit more hydrating, more dewy. I prefer more dewy. It is a great mix-in if you ever want to sheer something out, like a foundation, and make it dewier. It's just feels, it really feels like it's straddling that makeup skincare hybrid line, because makeup wears beautifully over it. It's not one of those really greasy, oily things that's going to make your makeup slide around. At least on my skin. If you have oilier skin, it might. But for me, it plays beautifully with makeup. Almost it acts as like a little bit of like a classic makeup primer in helping your makeup apply a little bit more smoother, or maybe even last a little bit longer. I don't know if that's actually a claim or that's something it does. It maybe just something I notice, but it always just works really well for me. Now, I do think I'm going to wait a bit before I buy a replacement of this, because I do want to try the Ritual Defeat Thorn Oil, and I do want to try the Victoria Beckham Priming Moisturizer. And that's just the type of product, especially with those three, those can all go bad pretty quickly, or relatively quickly as compared to something at the drugstore that has more preservatives. Not saying having preservatives is a bad thing at all, by the way. Just a fact of those products. So I think I'll try, I'm curious about those, that I would want to try one of those before I go back to Future Dew. But at this moment, from what I've tried, you know, that's the second bottle I used up of it. What's the one I used up this year? I previously used up a bottle, I think last year or the year before. It's just a great product to have around. And it's, again, I think Glossier is really competitively priced because I think it works better than a lot of Sephora brands that have similar primers. I think it's about the same price as the Rare Beauty one, and I would say it's a much beefier, impressive, skincare forward type of product. Reeks of rosemary though. I really like an herby, florally product smell. If you don't like rosemary, or if you have skin sensitivity, this will not work for you. Don't buy the Future Dew, but I love it. Next is one that if you had told me earlier this year this would have been best of the best top shelf, I would have been like, you lie. The Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. I am almost done with my bottle. And I don't necessarily think you have to buy the Flawless Filter. I also have the e.l.f. Halo Glow. It's just much too dark for me right now. I like it just as much as the Hollywood Flawless Filter, honestly. So when I use this up and I need a new shade of this type of product, there's another one I maybe want to try. But I think you could totally just buy the e.l.f. is what I'm trying to say. But for me and the shade I have in the bottle I'm using up and have used up this last year, and it's just the best. And I think, again, HRT drying out my skin changed this. When I had oily skin, or I didn't even necessarily have oily skin, but when I had an oily T-zone and my skin was oilier, I should say, this product did not work as well for me. It made everything really greasy. It kind of overtook all the textures on my face and it felt really disruptive to my makeup application process. However, as HRT has dried me out, this product, I just noticed, because I've mentally decluttered it a couple of times. I've said I'm going to use other things instead of it. It's just gone out of favor for me a lot. On top of the fact, Charlotte Tilbury is not my favorite brand for numerous reasons. However, I got it back out during my no-buy, I think either right before or right as it was really starting in September, and was like, let's start incorporating this back in. And I was astonished how great it looks. I feel like my makeup does not look as good if I don't use this. And this is both how dry my skin is and also how dewy I like to be. I feel like I need something like the Glossier Future Dew or the Rare Beauty priming moisturizer product. And I also need something like the Flawless Filter. Like, I need a priming moisturizer step, and I need a highlighting primer step, like a more intense, just putting it in the places I would highlight. That's just how I prefer to wear my base these days. So having both those products is important to me. And the Charlotte Tilbury is just like, I mean, it's the OG. It's the best of the best. It looks gorgeous. It shines throughout the day. At the end of the day, I can still tell where I applied it. Adds a little bit of coverage. And now that my skin's a lot drier, it plays really well with other products, which is just a testament to a lot of times products aren't good or bad. They're just sometimes meant for you and not others. Or in some seasons of your life, they're meant for you. Things like that. So Charlotte Tilbury, you sly fox, you made it. Next is another product from Glossier that is a new release, that was a pretty hyped up release this year, that I have just adored, and that's the Glossier Stretch Foundation. I think this is my favorite foundation I've ever tried. And caveat that I'm not a huge foundation girl. I don't love a liquid foundation. A lot of times in the past, I've much more wanted something like the Glossier Skin Tint that doesn't have a lot of coverage. Or if I want more coverage, I've just enjoyed layering like wand concealers on my skin. I find that looks better. But this foundation is just perfect to me. And I know some people have not had as great of time with it, but it's been a little bit mixed with its reaction, but I adore it. And I adore it for these reasons. One, it's about the max coverage that I'm comfortable wearing. It can be a really strong medium coverage, in my opinion. And I don't really like to go beyond that because I just feel like things start to look really heavy on my skin really quickly. But this has just really flawless coverage, will cover up dark spots, acne, texture, and just veil. Like it just has a hydrated veil look to it. I find it kind of smoothing. I don't know if I find it necessarily blurring, but I do find it just smooths and plumps my skin. And not just that, and again, this is a testament to me now having dry skin, I don't think it's dewy. In my opinion, it is a very hydrating natural finish foundation. And what I like about it is that it's one of the only flexible complexion products that doesn't dry my skin out. So if I want to go more matte or I don't want to be as dewy, this is an option I can wear that won't dry my skin out. However, if I use it with Glossier Future Dew or something like the Flawless Filter, which I often do both of those types of steps, it does become really dewy in the parts of my face that I want to be dewy, but can still be mattified in the others. I don't think this wears the best. It's so skincare intense that by the end of the day, I definitely notice some fading. I think it's graceful fading. I don't think it's like, oh God, it looks like parts of my face, someone just ate the foundation off or anything. I think it's pretty graceful in how it fades. And it's easy to sheer out. I think it's best applied with the sponge. I know my friend Ivy of Face Forward, she really enjoys using it with her hands and kind of getting more of a skin tint look with it, which you can definitely do. I think we both agree, and this is a perspective a lot of folks who have tried it have. Brush is not the way to go. It just kind of pushes the product around. Like, you really need something like a sponge or fingers to really pounce it into your skin, because otherwise it just kind of feels like you're moving a moisturizer around with a brush, if you know what I mean. Just not the best texture. for that, but it is this beautiful lightweight gel moisturizer texture, and it just does what I wanted, what I've always wanted a foundation to do, but I didn't know a foundation could do. It's just really impressive piece of makeup, and I absolutely adore it. I think, you know, I think it's over the $30 price point, but I mean, I like it better than the Kosas foundation that's a lot more expensive. I'm blown away by it, and I think it's great. It's a little dark for me right now. I kind of wish I had a lighter shade for the winter, because this is a little bit peachy. I haven't been outside as much in the sun, so every time I put it on, I'm like, oh, it's a little dark. But it's great. It's great. It's a great foundation. I love it. Next are two concealers that I don't own right now. I used both of these up, I think, during this no-buy period. I may have used one before my no-buy, but the first one is the Uoma Beauty concealer. This concealer, and I will say, I have used two of these up, one of which was this year, and both versions were the OG version, not the new repackaged version, and like I think it's now in like a more silver metal component. I used the one that was sort of plasticky, had a blue cap component, the OG. So I don't know if the version on the market right now is, I think the formula was only slightly tweaked. I don't think it's like was a complete reformulation or anything. It was mostly just about repackaging it, but I can't say that for sure. So caveat there. But the version of this concealer I used, it is just flawless. Like the Glossier foundation, even though it is a natural matte finish, it's intensely hydrating and does not dry my skin out. And most concealers that have a more matte finish dry my skin out. However, I don't always want a concealer to be super dewy. Especially like recently, I have really wanted, like sometimes I'll just set my under eyes because I don't like my under eyes to be too dewy. And the Uoma concealer just never, it like refused to ever look dry, but it gave you a really lovely matte finish, and it just did what I wanted it to. If I needed to spot conceal, this concealer could do it. If it was great. Oh, the shade Fair Lady T1 for my skin tone was the perfect, slightly color correcting concealer that I could blur my beard area out really well. Like probably one of my favorite products, if not my favorite product I've ever tried for blurring my beard and facial stubble hair out. It was flawless at that. Looked really great under the eyes, never heavy, really, really intensely high medium coverage. So I felt like none of my blue would come through on my under eye. And then also it would, like I said, just blur this facial hair area out a lot, which is one of my main insecurities. Go well over spots, would wear all day. Just one of those concealers that, like a lot of the products I'm talking about, is so impressive it's almost boring. Like it's almost like, oh well, it's like a concealer. But then you try other concealers and you're like, oh no, like they all don't do this. they all do not do this. Like this is a pretty special product. So I am excited to eventually repurchase that concealer because it is, I miss it. I have a couple right now that I like, but the tone of Fair Lady T1 and the formula just are not, nothing's really coming close to it right now from what I own, which is sad. And then on the other end of the spectrum is the Glossier Stretch Concealer. This is one I worked really hard to use up, and I was very much a moment of like, I love you, but I need a break. And now I've had that break, and I'm like, baby, come home. Baby, where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Because I miss it. It is just intensely hydrating. I like that they've revamped this shade range, so now there's more shades, so I feel like I could even wear this as an all-over tinted base. Before, the shade I had was G11, and it was pretty much just an under eye shade, and sometimes it would be way too light on my under eyes. So I like that I could get a shade that would be a better all-over complexion match now. And this formula is just great. It's so hydrating, but still has really nice coverage, especially for light refracting the under eye blue area. Really easy to apply. Definitely can use fingers, can use a brush. You could probably use a sponge if you wanted to just put it like all over your face. And since my skin is so dry, I think this is the type of product I need because it just wants to be dewy. And it's not the best for every situation. Like my Uoma concealer, and like these are And I mention both of these because they both feel like they belong in my collection. There are some days where I just want to put on the stretch concealer and get out of the house, and it's so undetectable, you can't even really tell I'm wearing anything. Or I just want to do really light, dewy, clean makeup. Stretch concealer is perfect for that. Then there's other days where I want my makeup to go a little farther, to last a little longer, to do a little more. That's what the Uoma concealer is for. And I miss both of these concealers because I feel like the three concealers I have right now are kind of wafering in this middle area, being like, we're kind of okay at all of that, but those two were like, we're really good at what we do, and I miss them. And I think in my ideal collection I just have those two concealers, and the whole middle section, or the ones that are not as to those ends, I don't really need, is what I'm learning through this no buy. Another product I don't have is the Glossier Wowder, my favorite setting powder. I don't really like powder. One way that Tom and I differ is I am not a face powder fan. I never have been. I usually don't set, especially now, especially in this season where I am feeling very dry, I maybe set my under eyes every day. I set a little bit more today, but it's just, powder really does not look good on my skin. My skin does not like powder. Glossier Wowder, always undetectable and always just did enough mattifying while not taking away the glow. It's also the type of thing I have heard where Wowder works best with Glossier products, and I use a lot of Glossier products, so it kind of makes sense that in that system, I'm a big fan of their powder. It makes sense. I have a sneaking suspicion this is going to be discontinued or reformulated in the next year, though. I could be wrong, but it was the only Glossier makeup product to not launch in Sephora, which just... I'm just suspicious. I feel like they're going to revamp it, which I'm excited to see what they do, and I'll probably... if they do that, I'll buy it. But I do miss this powder. There's a couple more powders. I don't miss it enough that I want to repurchase it after my no buy. I like the powders I have right now fine, but it's still got to be my favorite. Next is another, I think the third and final product from Phytosurgence on this list. I think Glossier has them beat out, but they're probably the second most represented brand on this list to Glossier. The Glossier Skin Spark blushes are just phenomenal. Are just the best of the best. The best cream blush formula you'll find. And I specifically, like Tom, want to shout out the shade Condensate. It's just perfect. It's just this, I think they describe it as like an oat milk lavender latte, which is a great coffee order. If you're a girl who orders an oat milk lavender latte, I like you. We should hang. I love the lavender, the color, and I love lavender, the flavor. I am lavender. I've thought about changing my name to lavender. Like it's a thing for me. The shade just always looks good. If I want to just go neutral on my cheeks, it just always works. It works beautifully with cool looks. I think it can even work with more neutral, warm looks. It looks really intimidating. And even when you apply it, you can be like, what did I just make myself like funeral ready? But if you have fair to light skin, do the rest of your makeup, take a step back, and it is just the perfect barely there pink blush. It's phenomenal. It's great. And just does what you want it to. It's a really pigmented formula, but it blends out. It never blends away, but it blends out like a dream. It's just really special. And these blushes are so affordable for what they are. Again, compared to Sephora prices, are, in my opinion, an absolute value. So I want to try more shades next year. I also have Sublimate and Evaporate. Evaporate is like an earthy peach that I like. And then Sublimate is a cherry that's a little... I don't know if it's quite right for my skin tone, but I do like it. I want to experiment with it more in the spring, I think. But I do want to try... I think there's one called Exothermic. I also have a new one called Inferno, which is kind of a lot like Subliminate, but even less red and more brown. I really want to try those, but that'll be next year. But I'm really happy I dove into this formula this year because it's great. And then my only bronzing product, I haven't loved or fallen for a cream contour bronzer this year. I'm excited to try some new cream contours next year, but for a powder bronzer, there's only one, and it's gotta be, like Tom, the Gucci bronzer. The Gucci bronzer is just it. I am so close to hitting pan on mine, and I really want to because nothing fills me with more joy than using the crap out of makeup I paid a lot of money for. But I remember when I bought this, I was like, I shouldn't have bought it when I bought it. I did not have a lot of money when I bought it, and I did not need to be buying Gucci bronzers. But I was very much like, I will use this, and this will be a good piece of makeup for me. And again, I don't love when I bought it, but it has been a great piece of makeup for me. I use it all the time. It's the perfect powder bronzer. I am somebody who can struggle with application with bronzer. This one always does just enough. It's a really nice rosy tone, so it doesn't make you look too orange. It works well when you layer it with creams, which not every formula does. It's really smoothing. It's a great bronzer. It's a great bronzer, and it's insanely expensive, but something about the packaging and the fantasy and having my go-to powder bronzer be this Gucci Tiffany blue bronzer, I'm into it. I love it. And like Tom, my only complaints are I wish it was refillable, and I wish the packaging wasn't plastic and maybe didn't have this stupid brush in it. Like, why? But it's great. I love her. And my only powder matte blush, of course, is Pat McGrath Fleurtacious. You know what? Let's get her out too, because where did she go? This is another product that I am desperate to hit pan on, and I am so close. Like, the imprint is basically gone in the middle. And I even used a little bit of it in my eye look today to tie everything together. It's perfect to layer with condensate because it's a warmer... It's not warm, but it's a more neutral take on a lavender oat milk latte. Like, maybe it's a rose lavender oat milk latte. It can pull a little bit warm with some things. It can just make your cheeks look a little flushed with other cooler tones, but it layers beautifully. It's not very pigmented, so I usually use it with a rougher brush because if I use it with a synthetic, it can just feel like I'm applying nothing. But if you're really fair, I think this would be a good option. And if you just want like a really neutral, pinky leaning blush, I think this is perfect. The combination of it and condensate is one I've used. I can't even count the amount of times this year. It's great. And with both of them, I like that I can apply something dewier under and then they can be a little bit dewier on top. Or if I just want them to be mattifying, they can be pretty mattifying. So that combo, but also Pat McGrath Fleurtacious on its own is flawless. And it's one of those things where I've thought about buying another Pat McGrath powder blush. And maybe I will one day because I do really adore the formula. And like powder bronzer, I have a lot of trouble sometimes with powder cheek products and just blending, and I find the Pat McGrath formula so flawless and lovely. But every time I'm kind of like, but Fleurtacious does it every time. Like, maybe if I get more into warm blushes next year for the hotter weather, maybe, but right now Fleurtacious is kind of all I need. Next is kind of a funny one, but the highlight shade in Pat McGrath Midnight Sun is my favorite face highlight I own as of this moment. And it is just so intense, so blinding. I have major pan in it, which I know to some people, they're like, oh, I don't want to use my Pat McGrath motherships, or if I, like, it does crack me up because some YouTubers, like, have to get a backup if they ever hit pan in something, but I just am loving that I hit pan in it, and I love how big it is and how intense it is. I feel Marie Antoinette let them eat cake realness whenever I'm like, I'm going to use a Pat McGrath shade as my face highlighter, and I'm not even going to be careful with how much I use. Like, it just makes me feel luxer and richer and more important than I am. Light, white, bright highlighter that makes me feel really confident. It emphasizes texture a little, but I don't care because it's a gorgeous highlighter, and I love it. And I am looking forward to the day where I just use that pan up completely because that's going to feel so good. Next couple are products I don't own anymore because I use them up. The Milk Hydro Grip Setting Spray, great setting spray. It's like sort of like MAC Fix Plus, but a little bit more Blue Agave skincare vibes. I really like it. I've gone through quite a few bottles. I think it's a little bit too expensive. I kind of want to use MAC Fix Plus. I just bought the Morphe setting spray. I know, what a blast from the past. I bought the jumbo size that has over 6 ounces of product in it. I think it was like 20 or 25 bucks from Ulta. I probably had a coupon or something. I just wanted something that was going to last a while and be maybe not cheap, but be a good value for how much product I was getting. And I like it so far. It's not my favorite because I haven't had it for a while, but it is really nice, and I like that I can just spray it forever and use a shit ton of setting spray because there's a bunch of product in here, and it also, it's one of those like endless aerosol things that I can just like hold down the button and be like, Mascara. This is a little shocking, but the saie mascara, I loved that mascara, and I always, when I would talk about it, would be like, and I know this isn't even that special of a mascara, it's just like a very typical clean beauty mascara, but then I never bought it again after I used my tube up, or it was at the point I needed to use something else. And one, I have missed it. I don't think my lashes look as good. Two, this is what's really crazy to me, is I still sometimes get compliments on my lashes, but when I wore that saie mascara, every day at work, a customer would be like, your eyelashes are incredible. What are you wearing? And I would just be like, I guess I have naturally great eyelashes, because like I don't think the saie mascara is it. But then I stopped using the saie mascara, and I was like, oh no, it was the saie mascara, because I'm not getting those compliments as much, and I don't feel like my lashes look as great. It didn't irritate my eyes. So many mascaras irritate my eyes. It did kind of everything. It just made them look really both natural, but also volumized and lengthened. It's a great mascara, and I miss it every day, and I really just want to repurchase it after my no-buy. And I think that may be one of my first purchases, is just finally getting another full-size tube of the saie mascara, because I miss it so much. And in between that, I've tried the Ilia, I had another tube of the Ilia Limitless Lash, which I've tried before and was previously my favorite mascara. Not as good as the saie. Also, the saie's wand didn't irritate my eyes. So many wands irritate my eyes. Like the Glossier mascara I tried, the Lash Slick, that irritated my eyes. That's a whole other story I'm going to tell in... The video may already be posted. I may have already posted my no-buy update, but the mascara journey I've been on, you know what, you can go watch that video if you haven't seen it, but it's been a journey, and I just want to come home to the saie mascara. I want to come home to the saie mascara, get in bed, cuddle, drink some peppermint tea, and do with the saie mascara. Lip products. I'm not wearing any of my favorite lip products today because they just weren't going to work with the look, and some of them I don't really own anymore. I will say, if you're curious, I'm wearing the NYX Burnt Sienna eyeliner as lip liner. And I also have, what else do I have on? I have e.l.f. Cocoa, the Seriously Satin lipstick, and over that, to make it a little bit more cool tone, I have Juvia's Place Muted. That's, I think, all I did on my lips today. But they're very, like, I just wanted a really dark brown, obviously. But my favorite lip products are all from Glossier. I love Glossier lip products, as you will see. And the OG balm.coms will continue until I use them up. I have 3. I have a rose, which is on its last leg. I have lavender, which is on sort of its last leg, but there's more in it than rose. And then I have the cocoa shade from last Christmas, not this Christmas, because they re-released that one in the original formula. I have the original version of cocoa, which I like, but that's more of like a tinted lip product than the lavender and the rose. They're just the best. I hope eventually, I think we'll hopefully see with how, because I have had folks who are not even into beauty like that come up to me or talk to me, and like IRL friends be like, when is Glossier going to bring back the OGbalm.com? It's like, this is a national, like, this is Bethany Frankel, this is a crisis. Like, Glossier's got to bring back the original formula, because I just think the reformulation has not gone well for them. And I think they haven't said they're going to do this yet, and they've been like, oh, we're just doing the 2 old holiday scents in the OG formula. We're not going to make a return to that formula. But I think next year, because it's going to take a while, because they probably have a lot of stock of the new formula, but I think we're going to see them return to it, because I think the fan reaction to the new formula has just not been good. And then Glossier Shift is my new favorite red. This was a gift I got actually during my no-buy. It is just, I have a video where I was just wearing this, and I can post the look. So many reds go pink on me, and I hate when reds go pink on me. And this is like a really darkened crimson, but it can also just pull as like a red on me, and it doesn't go pink. I love the formula because it's not drying on my lips. It's not the most bulletproof, but it's not drying, which I appreciate. It's really easy to apply, and I just love it. It's my perfect red, and I've been wearing it a good amount this holiday. And then Glossier Leo, the Genji and Leo. They just reformulated these, so I don't know if I like the reformulation yet. But I basically used this all the way up. I had a little nub left, but it was so old and it was just, the formula was so not it. I ended up just tossing it during my declutter, which was really sad. So after my Nova, I really want to get a fresh tube of Leo because it is my perfect go-to muted brown lip. I have a couple other brown lipsticks in my collection that I like, but I miss Glossier Leo. And I just want to buy quite a few of the Generation Gs because that's my favorite, like one of my favorite lip formulas. As long as your lips are hydrated, it's just the best soft matte lip. And I love a matte lipstick, oftentimes more than I love a lip gloss. And a last minute one that actually isn't on my list. The NYX This Is Juice Gloss in Coconut Chill. Mine is absolutely disgusting, but this has been such a great lip gloss this year. It actually has some hydration capabilities. Like, it's not going to be something that's going to bring your lips back to life, but it does feel really good on the lips. It's one of those products that just makes my lips look fuller and like they have less lines. Layers really well with lip liner, and it's just a great one. It's a great drugstore clear gloss, and mine's halfway gone because I wear this all the time. Even just on its own, it can make me feel more pulled together. So I will give NYX the credit on that one, that I love their lip gloss. I still need to try the Glossier one, actually. That's one of the only Glossier products I haven't tried. So maybe next year I'll try that too when I use this one up. We did it. Those are my best of the best, top shelf, most reliable Cloveroom clovers of the year. And I really enjoyed doing this. It was really fun. It's always great to appreciate what you have, appreciate what's in your collection. As I mentioned, there are some things I definitely want to buy next year or trade out, etc. New things I want to buy when I've used up things. I just think having that conversation with yourself of what's the best way for me to experience my beauty collection, not only in what I can afford, but what I will actually use. And for some things, I want to use up certain things first before I bring in a different product that I might be interested in, or an old favorite that I miss but I don't have right now. And some things it's like, no, I think it's time to declutter these things that just aren't working as well for me so I can get things that I know are going to work well for me. It just depends, but I think being really critical and having those honest conversations makes for a much more enjoyable beauty collection. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, give this video a like. Helps me a lot in the wild, wild west of YouTube algorithm. Subscribe for future Clovemas and just future Clove Room content. Comment your best of the best. Are we similar? Do you also have the Phytosurgence blushes or the Gucci bronzer on your list? Let me know. And thanks so much for watching. Bye, y'all.